The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. My name is Julia Talbot, and I am welcoming you to the DFSS, Department of Family and Support Services at the City of Chicago, Spring Forward Housing Navigation Program, RFP webinar for those persons interested in potentially applying to this new program. Just a little housekeeping at first. Due to the volume of participants and just sort of standard practice around here, everybody has been placed on mute. Please use the question box to notify us if you're having any technical issues, and we'll try to address those. We will also put all of your questions in the question box, and we are going to do questions at the midpoint after we've discussed the program model and at the end of the presentation. You also have the opportunity to write, email us or call us if you have other questions post this webinar. Just so you know, a copy of this webinar is being recorded, and a copy of the recording is going to be posted on the DFSS YouTube channel. Then a link from the YouTube channel will be posted on the PDF of these PowerPoint slides will be posted to the DFSS website, and you can see that web address down there under the alerts or funding opportunities. And this is going to take up to 5 business days. So you can email me, you can call me, you can do an interpretive dance, but it's going to take that long. This is my 5th webinar in 3 days, and I've gotten a lot of emails from people asking me if they can have the slides 15 minutes after this webinar is done, and the answer is probably not. It's going to take us a little bit of time. Sometimes we make few little corrections. We find some errors, and it takes us a minute to translate the webinar recording into a YouTube file and get that posted and get the link all ready and then posted to our website. So it takes us a little time, so please be patient. Today, I'm going to be joined by Cindy Rivera, the program manager, and Trinity Dobby, the supervisor of Family and Support Workforce Programs. They're going to be talking to you about this awesome new opportunity, the Housing Navigator. And then after that, I'm going to get back online and talk to you about how to make a submission, an application through the City of Chicago's e-procurement system. But we're going to start with Cindy talking about about the program and the opportunity itself. So welcome to you all, and Cindy, take it away.
Thank you, Julia. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cindy Rivera. I am the project manager for the Spring Forward program and also for this specific RFP. So I just want to say for here at DFSS, we are so thrilled to have, for the first time, we'll be providing a housing component that's connected to our reentry services. We do understand there are additional barriers returning resident space, and their situation differs, right, from those that are just looking for housing. They actually include like discrimination due to their background, but we feel with Spring Forward, we could reach our ultimate goal of participants sustaining that housing after the subsidy ends through meaningful employment. So we strongly feel that this is the way to go. So before we dive into the components of the housing program, let's do a brief overview of DFSS and talk about our mission and priorities. So our mission here in DFSS, we work with community partners, we connect with Chicago residents and families to resources that build stability, support their well-being, and empower them to thrive. Our priorities, which each of our divisions adheres to, include deliver and support high-quality, innovative, and comprehensive services that empower clients to thrive. We collaborate with community partners, sister agencies, and public officials on programs and policies that improve Chicagoans' lives and advance systemic change. We inform the public of resources available to them through DFSS and its community partners. And finally, we are stewards and we ensure that DFSS resources are used responsibly and effectively. And we also want to go over briefly our equity statement of principles. So I'm just going to read a couple of things here. So we just want to let you know that we do racial equity focuses on the social construction of race and how it's been used to unjustly distribute opportunity and resources based on a person's skin color, heritage, ethnicity, and or national origin. The City of Chicago does define equity as both an outcome and a process. And finally, as an outcome, equity results in fair and just access to opportunity and resources that provide everyone the ability to thrive. So the purpose of the RFP says, with Spring Forward, there are two RFPs. So the actual purpose is the reentry, employment, and housing navigation pilot programs are to support returning residents from Cook County Jail or the Illinois Department of Corrections to Chicago who are at the highest risk of housing security, homelessness, and recidivism. So our presentation contest. So we're going to talk about our Spring Forward pilot for a little bit. So Spring Forward, it means selected pre-release for intensive navigation support going forward. DFSS has released two separate RFPs to solicit proposals from respondents who can administer the following two program components. So we have the Reentry and Employment Navigation Program, which we had our webinar yesterday, and then we have the Housing Navigation Program for today. So we encourage respondents to submit proposals for both RFPs if you feel your agency could do that. Again, each RFP will have separate webinars to review its components. In this webinar, we'll be focusing on our housing navigation program. So an overview. The goal of the program is we're looking at agencies to support up to 70 individuals that are returning to Chicago from either JJC or IDOC. So that's 140 for 2 years. So of course, because the program is for 2 years. And it's to be assisting them with housing navigation services, which will facilitate access to permanent housing and provide a 12-month rental assistance subsidy. And that is to build their stability, support their well-being, and empower them to thrive. The service overview. So we're asking partner agencies to identify and facilitate access to a supply of housing that means applicable housing, health, and safety codes, and can service individuals, again, exiting CCJ and IDOC while providing a unit-based subsidy. Who are we targeting? So these are the criteria. So we're looking at Chicago residents who are 18 years and older. They're to be returning from jail or Department of Corrections within the past 18 months, and who are at the highest risk of housing insecurity, homelessness, and recidivism. All programs participants will be referred by the selected Reentry and Employment Navigation Agency. And again, I want to stress that. So all our participants in the housing navigation have to be referred from the selected Reentry and Employment Navigation Agency. Okay. Next are our key performance metrics. So we have a few that we are going to be monitoring. For instance, we looking at 100% of the individuals from the reentry and employment partner will be assessed for risk of homelessness. We're looking for 80%, 85% of the selected participants will be housed within 60 days of completing the housing assessment. 85% with at least 30 days in housing will not be reincarcerated for offenses committed. 80% of participants will remain stably housed after 90 days, and 85% will remain stably housed after 6 months. So our priorities, we're looking at our partner agency to demonstrate partnerships with the following, of course, with DFSS, with Cook County Jail, with the Department of Corrections, and we're also looking for Chicago-based transitional housing sites and the DFSS Reentry and Employment Navigation Partner. Again, 70 individuals will be receiving rental assistance and additional housing subsidies and intake assessment annually. Funding. So again, this is a 2-year program with an initial contract period of hopefully starting in April, but the program is actually going to start in May all the way to 2024. The total funding will be $2.9 million for the duration of the 2 fiscal years. The funding is being made available from the U.S. Department of Treasury or the American Rescue Plan, which is ARP. Background. So why housing and employment navigation? So having a record does hinder the individual's ability to access affordable housing and obtain meaningful employment. In addition, we saw that since the pandemic, returning residents have had to face a diminished job market with fewer supports, and there has been an increase in likelihood of mental health problems. So data obtained by our Homeless Management Information System, the Illinois Department of Public Health, and the Cook County Sheriff's Office, it shows that over 2,000 individuals have been cycling to all 3 systems, right? And that only 15% of them have accessed permanent housing. 1 in 3 of those cycling in and out of jail has spent an average of 320 days in jail over a 4-year period. Chicagoans in jail and the Department of Corrections with a stay of 90 days, of longer than 90 days, are not considered homeless upon release and therefore are ineligible to access interim housing under Housing and Urban Development, which is another funding source that DFSS has. Institutional stays, which include incarceration or inpatient mental health institutions longer than 90 days, constitutes a break in homelessness, which unfortunately resets the clock for the length of homelessness. The goal of the program, we're looking for our partner agency to annually support up to 70 participants released from jail or the Department of Corrections to the City of Chicago with housing navigation services. This would help facilitate access to permanent housing and provide a 12-month rental subsidy, which would stabilize returning residents and mitigate the risk of recidivism. How? So we're looking by building infrastructure for reentry housing that is designed to connect returning residents to permanent housing and supportive services. And this is going to include rental assistance and any additional financial subsidies related to housing services. Service overview. So again, partner agencies are to facilitate this access to affordable permanent housing and manage the distribution of a unit-based 12-month rental subsidies. So these are the primary activities that should be included. So when we talk about like going into your RFP, we're going to talk about words like robust, detailed, innovative, creative. We want to make sure that you instill this in your RFP when you're looking at it. We want the reviewers, when we're reading your RFP, to even visualize what you're trying to accomplish with this. So what are we going to be looking for is specific activities. We're going to be looking at landlord outreach, recruitment, and screening. What is going to be your process? How are you going to outreach to landlords? What's going to be your recruitment? And how are you going to screen? We're going to be looking at how you're going to manage a streamlined housing application process. With the help of DFSS, as always, we're going to help with that aspect. How are you going to implement this minimum habitability standards inspection process? Because we want to make sure that every unit that these participants are going to go in are sanitary, that they're safe, and they present no hazards to its occupants. We also want to ensure that any rental housing assistance for participant referrals, eligibility, and prioritization process is very explicit. We want you to talk about the rental fees and subsidy processing. How is it that you're going to manage that? How is it going to be monitored? And also, we find it very important to have this housing case management and tenancy support services, because it's not a program to locate a unit and put a person there. It's not that easy. We expect, for the partner agencies to be the person's advocate, to be this participant's cheerleader, and to help them along the way, right? So let's break it down a little more so you could look at exactly what is it that we're looking for. So with landlord outreach, recruitment, and screening, so we're looking at how you're going to recruit and retain these landlords, whether they're non-for-profit or for-profit owners or housing providers. How is it that you're going to accomplish that? How are you going to look for property owners willing to work with individuals with recent criminal histories or low to no credit histories? How are you going to screen these landlords based on their experience or your experience with other subsidy-based programs or types of sizes of units available? And how are you going to determine acceptable rents based on HUD's fair market rate or negotiate rents above FMR? Managing a streamlined housing application process. As the housing navigation, you will be performing a housing assessment that will determine what are the needs of these participants, like their housing needs, the unit, their preferences, right? So we're asking you to complete this intake and application process for these potential tenants and obtain any required documentation. We're asking, how are you going to manage the oversight of scattered sites and our master leasing agreements? One big thing, again, in talking about the implementation of the minimum habitability standards. This is a housing inspection. It's pretty easy. I know it sounds kind of scary, but really is not. It's per HUD standards, and it includes lead screening where applicable. We want you to conduct these inspections of all these units within 30 days of the approved subsidy application. So this is something that could be done before you even get your applicants or your referrals, that you already start building this portfolio of units, right? And start doing those inspections, so when you get your first person, you're ready to go. Rental housing assistance for participant referrals, eligibility, and prioritization. So of course, you will be receiving your referrals only from the selected reentry and employment navigation partner, number one. You are to conduct the screening and the housing assessment to assess the type of housing that is appropriate. You are to develop an individualized housing support plan. Also, we're asking you to develop an individualized crisis plan. Screen the referral as determined by guidelines set forth by DFSS. And we're asking you to manage the prioritization and randomization of eligible participants as outlined by DFSS. Of course, we're not going to get into any of those details right now, but we will do so when the selected navigation partner gets selected and talk to them about that more. Rental fees and subsidies processing. How are you going to manage unit-based 12-month subsidy payments, which include security deposits and furniture allowance? And of course, we want to make sure that these monthly rental subsidies is paid to the property owners and managers in a timely fashion. And we want to see how that process looks to you. Housing case management and tenancy support services. So we're going to ask you to report on housing retention, stability, and services rendered on a monthly basis, because here at DFSS, we are very data happy. So we love seeing data on a regular basis. We're asking you to provide provisions for a 24/7 crisis hotline for property owners and managers to address tenant emergencies. How are you going to manage and distribute funds for additional housing costs? How are you going to assist the participant to schedule activities? Turning on the utilities, change of address, anything that's relating to any housing support services. We're asking you to train the participants to manage and reduce behaviors to make sure that they don't jeopardize their housing. We're also asking you to assist participants in connecting them to the Cook County Early Resolution Program. Review and update the housing and crisis plan on a regular basis, and provide that ongoing support, coaching, motivational interviewing, and behavioral interventions when needed. And our target population. So this is the same as our reentry. So participants must meet all of the 4 criteria. Again, they have to be a Chicago resident that are 18 years and over. They have to be released within the past 18 months from the Cook County Jail or the Illinois Department of Corrections. They have to be part of a household which one or more individuals can demonstrate this risk of experiencing homelessness, housing insecurity, and recidivism. Oh, I said it right this time. And be referred by the Reentry and Employment Navigation Agency. So that's a big one with the housing navigation. Key performance metrics. So of course, DFSS is going to track your progress, right, towards achieving the outcome goals and assess. So I'm not going to go through all of these because we went through them earlier, but as you can see, these are specific metrics that we're going to be reviewing on a regular basis. And in addition, we do have additional output metrics that we will be tracking as well. So additional ones right here. So the following output metrics may be used to monitor and recognize immediate progress to the original 9 performance measures. So we're going to be looking at this one very closely. So we're going to see to make sure that 150 individuals will be receiving a housing assessment, and that will be used to determine who will be selected for the rental assistance subsidy. 70 from those 150 will be receiving a unit-based 12-month rental subsidies and housing support services. Again, we encourage agency to propose additional indicators and metrics. Is there something that you guys are doing and you're like, hey, we want you to track this because we think it's amazing? Sure, we have no issues with that. Or just letting us know, this is the way we want to do this. If you could track this, maybe this way, definitely, we're open to any type of common suggestions, and of course, addressing any concerns on a regular basis. Case management and data reporting requirements. So again, we're going to have periodic check-ins with delegates, mainly me with the housing navigation. We will be collecting and reporting client-level demographic data, performance data, and service data. So, kind of various types. We are going to be requesting reports to be submitted by the 4th of every month. We're working on a template for that. We're asking our agencies to participate, to input the data or participant data into ECM, which is our enterprise case management version. And of course, we will ask for additional reports as needed. So that's always a key one. That's one of those, like when you have a job a posting and you're like other duties as required, this is one of those. So the funding. So for this program, we're going to receive 2.9 million. Again, this is from our our ARP, which is a U.S. Department of Treasury. We DFSs anticipate one award for 2.9 for 2 fiscal years, right? The contract period will probably begin in May, hoping June, but probably May, and it'll end December of 2024. There could be 1 year extensions available, but again, that's at the discretion of the city, and it's based on availability of funds, the need to extend services, or the respondent's performance. So funding is intended to support the participants that are enrolled in the program for at least 1 year. So in the little box, it shows what should be your eligible costs, right? So to do intake assessments for 150 participants, and this is kind of like recommended amount, right? So it should be 2.5 allocated to that. And any program and administrative costs should be only up to 448,000 or 15% or less. Budgets and costs, again, the total being a little over 2.9. We're requesting a total of 140 participants that will be receiving the 12-month subsidy, and we're requesting that a max of 15% for program and administrative services. We're going to be asking to submit a budget for 1 year, and the maximum allocated for this 1 year should be a little over 1.4. Your contract term will be from May 2023 to December of 2024. So with the match, this is a recommendation that we have. Most of our delegate agencies to provide a match. Usually a match, it could include any kind, an in-kind or private, federal, or state funding to support your program. Like I said, delegates usually offer a match of 10% or more. And please note, this is not a requirement, but it is encouraged. Budget tips. So just to, when you guys do your budgets, just have these in the back of your mind. So cost category definitions are attached as budget instructions in every RFP. We want you to be thoughtful and inclusive in developing your budget and be as realistic as possible. Use the reasonable cost questions on the application to discuss how you determine the cost reflected in the budget, especially if there's something that is out of the ordinary. And as long as you justify it as a reviewer, just keeping that in mind for someone that's reading it that has no idea, just being specific and detailed as possible in your responses. Remember to check your calculations when you're doing your fringes. Supplies, there's been, and this has been an ongoing issue that this frequently is under over budget in this category. Make sure when you do your job description that the titles are included and you do provide a brief description of the job. That is so important. There's a lot of people that don't do that. We want to see everybody that's going to be part of this program. We want to see what their duties are. Put your budget in the appropriate column. And if applicable, please show your match. So we have our eligibility, evaluation, and selection. So eligible respondents, you could apply as a single agency, or you could be a lead agency with multiple agencies serving as subcontractors. However, you think the best way in order to go ahead and manage this program. It is open to not-for-profits and faith-based. The evaluation process for this RFP. So we will be evaluating on the strengths of the proposal and the responses to selection criteria. As you can see in the box below, community selection 25%, organizational capacity 15, strength of proposed program is 30, which is the highest. So with this, we ask you to be robust, as detailed, as specific as you can. Let us know exactly how is it that you want to run this program, the best way to do it. We also going to look at performance measure and of course, reasonable costs, which are budgets and any leverage of funding. Our selection and transition timeline. So our webinar was today. Applications are due March 23rd at noon. And I really stress this. That's it, noon, it's shut off, nothing, that's it, no more. And we're looking for the program to begin May 1st of 2023. Again, another, and see it's in red just to make sure
Unmuted.
everybody understands. They're due March 23rd at noon.
Great. And hey, thank you so much, Cindy. So now we're going to have a little break. If anybody has any questions, we're going to take a break so we can have, do a little questions and answers if people have questions that they, write in the front of their head or about the program model. And then I'm going to go on and talk about how to make a actual application into the e-procurement environment. A little background: e-procurement is the city's cradle to grave procurement system. People access e-procurement, or vendors, potential vendors or applicants access e-procurement through the iSupplier system. So as a vendor, you will apply, or you already have an iSupplier account, which is yours to love, to hold, and to control. And you use your iSupplier account to access e-procurement in order to apply for RFPs, make applications for RFPs for funding, to manage your contract, and most importantly, probably to draw down money for reimbursement. So you'll submit your vouchers and you'll do all of that negotiation to get reimbursed for the money, for the work that you have done in the e-procurement environment. Here I can see we do have a question. I'm so excited. Are you looking for agencies that are already providing this level of programming, or are you willing to consider agencies building out their programming specifically to apply for this opportunity or grant? Is that Trinity or Cindy, can one of you address that question?
Yeah, definitely. Depending how you write your RFP, but we're looking to make sure that you do be very specific in how you're going to obtain, like, let's say, housing units or maintain leasing agreements. So you don't have to be established, but we want to make sure that this is something that we need to get running as soon as it hits the ground. So if it's something that you could outline and be specific in your RFP, definitely, we welcome it.
Oh,
And we do encourage delegates that have some experience. This is a new program and component for the workforce division, so we're looking for a delegate that does have experience in doing this housing component, as well as those who have some long-standing and good relationships with landlords throughout the city of Chicago. However, if this is something an agency is looking to venture into, as Cindy has stated, we would really need to see a comprehensive overview of how you plan to achieve the outcomes that we are expecting with this particular part of the program.
Here's another question: can some of the funds be used to renovate or upgrade units in a building?
Unfortunately, no. All the financial assistance is geared through assisting the participant to obtain permanent housing and sustain that housing for 12 months.
Okay. Yeah, I think that there might be some RFPs coming out of the Department of Housing, though, that might address some of the need to renovate or upgrade different kinds of supported or maybe more temporary housing. So I guess, Ms. Watson, I would look to the Department of Housing and maybe look and see if they've released anything. I don't know of anything off the top of my head, but I do suspect that there's some of that stuff. Some of those monies might be a better fit than this. So if there are no other questions, I'm going to get back to talking about the wild and wonderful world of e-procurement. So I've gotten you through. You're going to get into your iSupplier account. If you don't have an iSupplier account, please get one. It's going to take a few days for you to get it set up. You go to you create the account, and then you get an invitation from the Department of Procurement Services, and that invitation takes hours to days to arrive. A lot of things from e-procurement and iSupplier tend to end up in spam or junk folders, at least in the beginning. So if you have to make if you're getting your account set up, please do check those folders to see if we have gotten back to you, and then you can get started. Oh, and then will there be anyone specifically available to help with the application process? So to that end, you're at the webinar. Cindy and Trinity and myself are here to answer questions for you. They are the programmatic expert. I am the person that will help you navigate the e-procurement environment. And if you can't get a hold of me, there is also a helpline and email addresses and any number of resources available to help you make it a successful application. So to that end, one of the ways that I really love to encourage people to start their application process on the best foot forward is to read the RFP narrative, paying specific attention to our narrative, program description, the selection criteria, and look at how those two things work in concert with the application questions that we have everybody fill out. From those things, these things all are interrelated. They also relate to our evaluation tool and the scoring guidance that we give our evaluators. And so it's not like there's a disconnect. All of this stuff really lines up. If you are wondering what kind of direction you should go in, how you should approach a question, really refer to that RFP narrative document, because that's where you're going to get your guidance. That's where we talk about how to really get, what we're really looking for to a very good, to a high degree of specificity. So I know that they are dense documents. They are maybe not what people would choose to read, but they are very informative, and we do put them out. We spend we spend actually a lot of time developing these documents and fine tuning them to make sure that people have the information they need to make a good decision, make a good and informed decision about whether or not this is programming that's appropriate for their organization, and what exactly are they getting themselves into by making an application to provide the services. If you are one of those people interested in submitting more than one proposal, which I'm not sure if this model, you really will need to do that. You do need to do that under a separate unique registered account user with online bidding responsibilities that you set up within your iSupplier account. So you need to have if you're going to make two applications, you're going to need to have two individual unique user accounts, each making one. You can't submit two applications with under one user account. As part of getting ready, remember there's a 4,000 character limit for all the questions per question in iSupplier. We're going to go through some screens later, and you'll see the quote value screen. That is limited to 4,000 characters, including punctuation and spaces. E-procurement is not going to count that for you, nor will you really be able to access your application in a manipulatable format after you submit it to us. So I always encourage people to do their applications offline in a word processing software package of their choice. Save it so you can use your language for other RFPs or applications, and then and do those character counts so that your sentences and your good thoughts are not cut off midstream. When you are working in the e-procurement environment, don't use the back button on your browser, because that is going to cause an error message. E-procurement is going to basically stop working, but it won't tell you, or it's going to be stop saving and it won't tell you. And then when you go to save, it will give you an error message and kick you out, and all of the things that you had put in there will be lost. I also have been telling people to not wait until the last moment. Consider submitting your application 24 to 48 hours in advance. That will give you a nice time to be relaxed, to go through the application and the submission process, which is not just a click and go kind of thing, and that you can do it, you can sort of set yourself up for success with this. Late applications will not be accepted. There are no exceptions to this. And the only way we can accept a late application is to re-release the entire RFP and ask everybody who already applied to reapply. We really don't like doing that, so no exceptions. That is why we tell people to think about submitting early, just so that you can avoid the rush, have it be a less stressed experience, and do your best work. So if you want to practice, you can submit your application and amend it until the due date and time. You can practice submitting or you can submit, and if you absolutely need to make an update, you figured out, I didn't attach this, or I said this, I want to say it differently, you can pull that application back. And a submitted application we don't look at them until after the deadline, but a submitted application just takes the pressure off of you. plan on your submission taking 30 to 60 minutes, and we're going to go over 2 common things that you have to do in the e-procurement environment. One is accepting an amendment, and the other is submitting your application. You'll see why I'm saying 30 to 60 minutes. It's just not a very straightforward or simple process. You have to go through a couple of different screens. If you, in terms of getting technical assistance, I am available to talk to anybody about e-procurement pretty much all the live long day. My contact information is the last slide on this presentation. It's also in the RFP document. You can also call the e-procurement hotline at 312-744-HELP or 4357. The hotline operates during business hours only, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I operate pretty much if you can get a hold of me and I'm at my desk or I'm on my, like sometimes I have my work phone forwarded to my cell phone. I tend to answer my phone, and I will happy to talk to you if I am awake and, in a place where I can actually have a conversation with somebody about their e-procurement issue. You can also email me, or you can email the customer support people. Customer support is customer support at cityofchicago.org. I'm at julia.talbot at cityofchicago.org. I endeavor to return all phone calls and emails about e-procurement stuff within 24 hours. Sometimes the hotline and the customer support service gets a little bit more backed up, but they almost always return a phone call or email within 48 hours. If you don't like talking to people on the phone and you don't want to email anybody, there are also a lot of training materials at this website. The stuff that's going to be most relevant to you as a DFSS applicant is going to be under the delegate agency field. So now we're going to move on and talk about how to accept an amendment. DFSS does an amendment for almost every RFP that we issue, if only to include the webinar questions and answers or the questions that we received from people via email or phone, and provide those answers to the entire applicant pool. But we also use an amendment to basically provide clarifications or updates to any RFP that we need to. If we go in, we find that we've made a mistake, or we just want to provide more information on something to the entire applicant pool, we're going to do an amendment. On the rare occasion, we sometimes will extend the deadline. I don't see that happening for here, but it has happened for a variety of reasons. And so we do all of those kinds of things through the amendment process. If this RFP had not been amended, when you would open to this screen and you would go to this actions button or this actions thing on the right hand side here with the pull down menu. You would set the pull down menu to create quote, and you'd hit go, and that's how you'd start your application. In this case, we've amended the RFP, and so you're going to need to accept and acknowledge the amendment first. You do that by doing this view amendment history. In the e-procurement environment, since you can't use that back button to scroll around in it, you really go anything that's in blue, you can pretty much click. It will take you to something else. So in this case, you're going to hit this view amendment history, click on it, and it's going to take you to this screen where you're going to start the acceptance and acknowledgement process. If you wanted to open the RFP document itself, you're going to go under here with this, where the 1 is under the document number. You can see here in the middle area, there is a short 1-sentence explanation of what the amendment is about. Over here by 2, you would be reviewing the changes. You click on that little eyeglass thing. It's going to open up the amendment document that we have, and you're going to be able to review the changes that we've made that are in greater detail than that just one little 1 sentence. And then when you're done, you're going to acknowledge the amendment by clicking the acknowledge amendment buttons, which are in the upper or lower right-hand side of the screen. When you do that, it's going to take you to this screen where you're going to acknowledge and accept your acknowledgement. You're going to accept the terms and conditions of the RFQ and acknowledge the changes made to the RFQ amendment document. You're going to do that by clicking that box there, and then you're going to hit the little button that says acknowledge, which will take you to this screen where you're going to hit yes, confirming your acknowledgement of the amendment. Don't know why you'd say no, but it's there as an option. If you press no, it just takes you back to the other screen. You're going to hit yes, and that's going to take you to this final screen where you again click the box at the bottom here saying that you've accepted the terms and conditions, and then you're going to accept. That is how you do an amendment. It doesn't take very long. So now this is how you're going to submit an application. So when you are done writing your beautiful, absolutely stunning, so inspirational, well-written, completely spell-checked RFP, you are going to save your draft one more time, and then you're going to hit continue. When you hit continue, eProcurement is going to do a scan pretty much of all the low-hanging fruit stuff that it thinks might be wrong with your application. It's going to give you a series of error messages because eProcurement, it's kind of limited. It's never a gentle, there's never a gentle thing with eProcurement. It's always just like error. Don't let that freak you out though. It's going to be fine. So we're going to go through the two most common error messages people see in their eProcurement journey, right? First is this RFQ control requires you to quote on all lines. When you do that, this means basically, if you look down right below the error message here, you'll see this tab called lines. DFSS requires that you submit an Excel budget, based off of an Excel spreadsheet that we give to you. We want you to fill that out, upload it. However, since eProcurement is a cradle to grave procurement system for everything from homeless services, workforce services, all the way to, paving a road and garbage supplies, or, garbage truck, buying a garbage truck. There's something that, there's different kinds of procurement, and the lines is a holdover that is used in other kinds of procurement activities, but is not used for us. So eProcurement's going to ask that you quote all lines. So you're going to hit this lines tab. You'll see a whole bunch of fields, and you just put in whatever number you want. I've encouraged people to put in their winning lottery numbers, but nobody's taken me up on that yet. But maybe you guys will be the first. Or you can just put in your birthday, or you can put in stuff that you put in your budget, but we're not going to look at it. We just want you to fill in the lines so that error message goes away and you can get on with your submission. The second most common thing that you're going to see as an error message is a quote value is required for requirement first name. And in this case, requirement is eProcurement speak for the application and application questions. Each application question or each requirement has its own unique name, so we can keep them apart. In this case, it's first name. And quote value is the thing capped at 4,000 characters, including punctuation and spaces, but the quote value is the answer. So all eProcurement is telling you here is, hey, this is a required field for you to fill out. You didn't put in first name. Please tell us what your first name is. So that is how that error message will be resolved. So once you address all the error messages that eProcurement throws your way, and you hit continue, when you're done and there are no error messages, you're going to be put into this beautiful review and submit phase, at which point you can really just scroll all the way through your application. You can see all the answers to your quote values. If you need to change them, you can go back and edit. And then you're just going to scroll to the bottom of the page where you can do an electronic signature, which is right here. Here you're going to put in your name and your title, then you're going to check the box. And then on the other side of this page, but I couldn't fit it all into one legible screen, you see this submit button. You're going to hit submit, and you're going to get a confirmation screen saying that you have successfully completed and submitted your application with us. So the eProcurement system is going to give you a confirmation email. It's going to send it to that email address associated with your application within 24 hours. You're going to see this confirmation screen. But if you want something a little bit more immediate or a little bit more personal, don't hesitate to call or email me, and I can see this. The second you hit submit, I can see it on my screen. It is not a problem for me to confirm if you want a verbal confirmation, or send you a screenshot if you want an email confirmation, whatever makes you feel best. So that is really all I have to say about making an application in the eProcurement environment. This, as I said in the beginning of this presentation, this webinar is being recorded. It will be posted on the DFSS website. It will be posted on the DFSS YouTube page, and then a link will be put on the website. That's going to happen in no longer than 5 business days, but not today. Okay? Not going to happen today. It will happen on Wednesday. We have to translate the files. We got to get everything posted to 2 different places. That link will be accompanied with PDF of these PowerPoint slides. It's not going to happen today, but it will happen in the next 5 business days. So start looking next week. If you have questions, we can take them now. And then also, if you come, later on today or next week, you find you're like, oh, I got a question. If it's a program question, reach out to Cindy. If it's an e-procurement question, reach out to me, and we'll be more than happy to talk to you about whatever you want to talk about in relations to this opportunity. We have time now for questions, and I look forward to hearing what people want to know. And I also just want to thank all of you guys for showing up to this webinar, for your interest in this program. I think it's such a great needed activity for us to engage in as both a city government, but actually just as citizens of the city of Chicago. So it's a really exciting opportunity to do some really new and much needed work for the citizens, for our returning citizens. I don't know if Cindy or Trinity, if you guys want to make any additional comments to the RFP. If there are no questions, we're going to do this. So I think I see here. Can we have a copy of the slides? Yes, you can, but in up to 5 business days from now. And then, is the insurance required at the time of submittal? We do like to see that you have insurance. So please, even if it's outdated, please do upload something. We do need proof of insurance to enter into a contract, and also to proof of your ability to do business in the state of Illinois and this country. And we need those things to enter into a contract. If those things are not happening for you at the time of submittal, you're going to need to really talk to us. I would say if you are waiting on a 501c3 designation or some other kind of designation about how to do business, doing business, you should find yourself a fiscal agent. Those 501c3 designations take a long time to process, and we're not going to be able to hold up your contract, nor are we going to be able to enter into a contract with you if you don't have a FIN number and you're not capable of doing business. Unfortunately, also, we are not going to enter into a contract with a fiscal agent that wasn't the applicant. So say I am agency X and I don't have a FIN number, and I make an application anyway. If the city of Chicago awards me as agency X and I'm still waiting on my 501c3, you can't just transfer, be like, oh, I'm going to go, agency Y is going to be my fiscal agent. No, agency Y needs to have made the application and be in the system. We can't change that. That's just how our procurement system works. So you're not going to be able to change that. So we really need you to be able to do business at the time of application. That's kind of just one of our things. So I'm not seeing any additional questions here. I don't know. So Cora, Cindy, or Trinity, do you have any final comments that you would like to make?
Through reviewing
And
your
I'm really
RFPs.
excited about this program, and we're really excited to see what responses we get. I just want to drive home the point of, if you have any programmatic questions regarding either RFP, please reach out to Cindy or I so that we can clarify any areas of confusion or make sure that what you are reading grasp. And again, if you have any procurement questions, that will go to Julia. Cindy and I are here to help. So please do reach out to us if you have any questions, and we will do our best to make sure we can assist you as best as we can. And again, thank you guys for coming up.
Cindy, did you have anything you wanted to share?
No, I just wanted to kind of reiterate what Trinity said, thanking you guys for taking the time to come to the webinar. Any questions, we are available through phone or email, and we look forward to reviewing your RFPs. So thanks again, and we hope to enjoy the rest of your day.
Yes, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Friday afternoon. Stay warm, and we can't wait to see your applications in just a few weeks. And with that, I'm going to conclude the webinar, and go forth. Take care.